our team of expert meteorologists as well as correspondents, they're ready for Erin's impacts. They've been positioned along the entire eastern seaboard since the beginning of the week, and we have live reports throughout the show today.
We do want to begin, however, with Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross. Bryan, good morning to you. The latest advisory that is in, but how wild is it to see this hurricane off the shores of the southeast and able to comfortably talk about it and know we have no landfall?
Yeah, it really is miraculous. We're going to know it's out there. It's going to have significant effects all along the coast, but to not have to deal with the direct landfall and something like a Hurricane Ike from 2008 that did all that damage in a similar intensity kind of storm and a similar structure kind of storm to this is really kind of a blessing. And your observation was exactly right. The fact that we're seeing a very round system right now tells us that the atmospheric pattern over the hurricane has dramatically improved since yesterday, or become more conducive to development since yesterday. And none of that is good news, of course, because the stronger the hurricane gets and the more distributed the energy is in an even kind of way, the more energy it puts in the ocean, the more problems we have along the coast. The key thing that we saw in the 8 o'clock advisory is this: the pressure down to 948 millibars. That's very low for a 100-mile-an-hour storm. And we're getting here into sandy territory now in terms of pressures. But the thing is that as the storm is expanding, that energy, think of the lowness of the pressure indicating the higher energy, is spreading out in a larger area and then putting more energy into the ocean. But the fact that the pressure is bottoming out tells me that the winds are probably going to ease up, but this is a more serious problem the lower that pressure gets. So what we have is two parts to the system here. We have this core here. Hurricane hunters are just flying through it right now, but they're finding very strong winds out here 100 miles out from the center in this very strong band there. So this is a big hurricane. Anybody that was in South Florida during Hurricane Wilma remembers a big hurricane where the eye wall hit Miami and Fort Lauderdale and into West Palm Beach, all the way along the southeast coast, the eye wall, because it was such a large structure when it came through. So big hurricanes still cause big problems. And here we can see there's the core where the strongest winds normally are, but in this case, the winds are also very strong in this band that's way out here. And this is why this band is going to come close to the Outer Banks, as we're going to look at here in 1 second. And that's why we have the watches and warnings and so forth up that way. So here they actually measure, the Hurricane Center estimates really how big the system is, 265 miles from the center, and that's actually in this direction here. It's a little bit less in this direction, and you see considerably less in these other two directions. The system is right loaded, but the thing is, what that's doing is that's putting more energy in the water going this way, because that side has more leverage, stronger winds farther out, so more leverage to push the water. And of course, that water is what's going up right now and heading toward the southeast coast. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at the size of the storm. The yellow areas are 40 miles per hour plus. Hurricane force gusts in the orange, hurricane force winds in the dark red. Notice up here in the legend, and notice where we are in time. Wednesday morning, right now, as a matter of fact. Here we go forward in time. So now we're tomorrow morning, and notice that the outer band here is right on Cape Hatteras. The strongest winds are staying offshore, but the winds, remember, in the hurricane are coming around this way. And while the winds are coming around that way, the energy from the storm is radiating out like this. So it's radiating in all directions from this core of the storm. And so, in fact, it's kind of radiating from all that wind going, blowing around the system. So the swells are not necessarily in the same direction as the wind, is the point. But anyway, Thursday morning, early morning, that's the time, overnight into the early morning hours, that's the time when the maximum wind looks like it'll be right there. So the tropical tropical storm warnings in effect there for Cape Hatteras, as you know, and then a watch just in case. It's going to be close to 40-mile-an-hour sustained, maybe a little less, certainly gusting tropical storm force up there in the tidewater. This will push water into Chesapeake Bay because you have a combination of the swells pushing in and the wind coming down the bay trying to get the water out. So water rise around the Chesapeake Bay, especially low-lying areas. And the storm surge warning there for the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where we could very well have water coming over the roadways and so forth. And a couple things to notice here. The main thing is that the highest storm surge, remember the storm surge is where the baseline of the ocean rises to, and then big waves, 10-foot, 12-foot, 15-foot waves on top of that. So it starts 4 feet higher along the Outer Banks, up to 3 feet to the north and the south, but also water rise inside Pimlico Sound, especially on the south end of the sound. Okay, then we take the wind moving north, and here we go, and you see it moves on out to sea, but it doesn't come that far from Cape Cod and Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard there. So that's going to be a close call. We'll see if they end up putting up a watch, at least for there. Nothing there yet. So there's the way the overall cone looks, and you can see the idea is that it does increase in intensity a little bit here later today, tonight, and tomorrow, and then moves off into the cold water moving north. So here's the energy. This is the big thing coming toward the coast. Look at the energy radiating out from the storm. So it comes closest to the coast here tonight, into tomorrow morning around Cape Hatteras, and then tomorrow up in the whole Northeast from New England on down to Cape Hatteras. This is when the beach conditions are going to be the most dangerous, and then it moves away. But here we are on Saturday, and you can see it finally pulling away. Lots of energy out in here, but finally letting up along the coast to some degree, although even Saturday I think you'll feel the currents in the water. It takes a while for the ocean to settle down when you put this much energy into it. Guys?
Yeah, and I think watching this between, well, earlier in the week and then all the way potentially into the weekend for spots, the beaches will continue to be closed as a result.
Yeah.
But like you said, we will know there is a massive hurricane offshore, but at least we're keeping the center of it well offshore. Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross. Thanks, Bryan.